It's Sebby's birthday, which means it's time to discuss the bouquet in his Bloom birthday card. This has been the hardest bouquet yet, not just because the identification was hard, but also because a lot of these plants either have multiple names or they straight up have no meaning. But nonetheless, I did find some things to talk about. Thankfully, this wasn't a total bust. Flower language has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and all cultures have their own different takes on flower language. Because Twist, while a Japanese game, has a lot of aspects influenced by British and US cultures, I'll be analyzing the bouquet with hanakotoba, Japanese flower language, and florography, which is the fancy English word for flower language. They mean the same thing, but just know when I say hanakotoba, I'm specifically referring to Japanese symbolism, and when I say florography, I'm referring to the English/US/Western flower language. While some meanings overlap, not all of them do, so I just want to be clear on what flower language I got what information from. I wasn't able to identify every plant in this bouquet, but here's what I was able to name. Hylotelefum telefum, Anastasia spidermum, green carnations, green zinnias, I think, Echeveria agavoides, brown leucanthus, what I think are hellebores, and Cebidium, which I think specifically is Cebidium chloranthum, but admittedly I only know for sure that it's some kind of Cebidium orchid. There's 3 overarching themes with this bouquet. Good luck, friendship, and romance for some reason, but we'll talk about that last one at the way end of the video. For now, let's talk about good luck and friendship, every pony. Green zinnia, hellebores, and Cebidium chloranthum all in some part mean good fortune. To be honest, I wouldn't call Sebek a lucky character like how most people would think of it. Like, he's always having good things happen to him, he always wins things, etc, etc. This is going to sound like such a backhanded compliment, but I think fortune in this case applies to his situation in life. I'm not sure if he's a fully fledged retainer, I don't think he technically is, but let's be real here, he's 16, already has a position either in the Royal Guard or a position lined up, and not just a generic position, like he is the heir apparent's retainer. That is an insanely good position to have lined up, and that young? I mean, yeah, it's giving child soldier a bit, and probably Sebek considers himself lucky to have that position, let's be real here. And the other thing I think that he's had good luck in is being born into the family he is in. He's got a good family. Sebek's parents and grandfather might not get along and the relationship is strained, but Bar, his grandfather, genuinely loves him and his siblings and doesn't have any ill will against him. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people in that situation aren't so lucky, and most of the time, if grandparents don't approve of their kids' marriage, the grandkids also get treated pretty badly. And not to mention, because Sebek has a great support system, he's a lot more emotionally open and... how do I put this? He realizes it's okay to talk about feelings to people that, those feelings concern. I forget who pointed this out on Twitter, but someone pointed out that Lilia and the 2 boys he raised on his own, Malleus and Silver, are all pretty terrible with their feelings and talking about it to, whoever needs to be talked about it to. Sebek, on the other hand, is a lot more open and willing to talk about his feelings. And as we can see in Chapter 7 and all the problems that came about because not being honest with our feelings, Sebek was insanely lucky he had a support system outside of Lilia and his kids, so he knows how to talk about his feelings. I mean, I do think Lilia is basically Sebek's 3rd dad, but still, Sebek is lucky he got so many people who love him unconditionally and have raised him to be open with his feelings. Zinnia, Cebidium, and Hylotelephium all have ties to friendship. Sebek is really interesting when it comes to friends because, let's be real here, his only friends are really Silver and arguably Riddle. I wouldn't count Lilia because I think Lilia is more of an authority figure / father figure to him, and Malleus is Malleus. Sebek is incredibly abrasive and he says he doesn't need friends, but he can be really friendly when he wants to be. He had no problem befriending Eppel's grandma. I feel like those flowers reflect both that Sebek could probably make more friends if he tried, and also the few friends he does have are extremely important to him. Silver is very clearly important to him, and he fiercely defends the few friends he has. Sebek is dedicated to his friends. As I said, we'll talk about romance in a later section, so let's talk about all the flowers individually. Let's start off with Echeveria agavoides. It's a type of succulent and has no meaning, apparently. It means nothing in both florography and hanakotoba. One person proposed it meaning endurance since the succulent is hardy, but that's just their opinion. But that being said, I think that person is right, and that certainly applies to Sebek. He had to undergo strict training as a kid, he kept up with it, and he can get through pretty much everything. His endurance is high. Anastasia spidermums have a lot of conditions when it comes to what they mean. Their meaning depends on what kind of occasion it is, what color it is, And for florography, only white ones have meaning, which I don't get at all. It's not like they're only naturally white, but that's what we're working with. In florography, they can mean peace or death if you live in Europe. In Hanakotaba, they mean cheerfulness and can be used to convey to someone else that they're a wonderful friend. Yeah, there's a lot going on with these flowers. I suppose as a retainer, it's Sebek's job to protect Malleus and also make sure his life is peaceful, but I'm gonna be honest, that feels a bit like a reach, but it's the only thing I can really think of. For cheerfulness and friendship, Sebek can definitely be very open with things, and I think he could be open with people about them being a great friend, for the most part. He definitely seems to couch it a bit when it's Silver, but for others, from what I can remember, he's more or less open. His friends are important to him, and I think he would tell them that he cares about them. Again, if they're not Silver. That sounded so shady. I didn't mean it shady. I just mean that he and Silver seem more like brothers, so the usual rules don't apply to Silver. Or, I guess another interpretation is saying Sebek himself is a great friend. There's not a lot of information on Hylotaliphium, at least that I could find, but from what I could find, it means modesty, which, not gonna lie, think this is a bit of an ironic flower. Sebek does have a lot of accomplishments to be proud of, but I don't think I would call him modest at all. He isn't constantly bragging, but it definitely feels like he does brag quite a bit. Green carnations mean fascination, excellence, and renown, and honestly, Sebek is good at what he does. Even if Malleus didn't overblot and put Sebek on the path of being known as the knight that saved his liege, because we all know that's gonna happen, I still feel like Sebek would have become a famous knight, more or less. But yeah, I think Sebek has fame in his future for his yet-to-be-seen saving of Malleus from his overblot. Green zinnias represent missing friends and loved ones. I think he'd get defensive if asked, but honestly, I think Sebek has a little separation anxiety. I don't think anyone is surprised when Sebek goes into a panic when not around Malleus, but he also has a few lines that to me imply he also doesn't really like being away from Lilia, but he's definitely got it for Malleus. Brown lisianthus in both flower languages means appreciation. In English florography, it can also mean gratitude and devotion. Well, he's certainly got both of those towards Malleus. He's a devoted knight and, he's definitely got some self-introspection to do, but he has a lot of angst around the fact he's half human. I don't know if it's been explicitly said, but I think we all know he's faced racism in Briar Valley because of his heritage. He feels less than, and it wouldn't surprise me if he felt super appreciative of Malleus for having him in the Royal Guard, even though he's only, quotation marks, half Fae. Also, it can mean traditional values, which, yeah, that seems on brand for Sebi. Green-flowered hellebores used to mean delirium. I don't think that really fits Sebek, but I thought that was super weird, so I wanted to include it. A little fun fact. In florography, this color specifically means youthfulness. Sebek would probably argue with me, but he's a kid. Teenagers are kids. If teens are watching me, I know you're probably going to be irritated with me saying that. I probably would have been irritated too when I was y'all's age, but y'all are kids. And Sebek definitely has his moments of acting childish. And lastly, for this section at least, we have the green Cebidium orchid. In florography, they represent valued friendship. Although Sebek doesn't have many friends, he treasures the few he does and loves them deeply. Alright, so it's time for every Yume Joshi's favorite segment, Yume Joshi Icho no Koi Kashitai, where I talk about the romantic aspect of these flowers. And oh boy, a lot of Sebek's flowers have romantic meanings. Which, to be honest, although I guess I could see Sebi being a bit of a romantic, I think most of us can agree hearing that he might be is a bit strange. We know he, quote, had a plan if he falls for someone, but the only info we get about that is that he has a plan and Lilia told him what to do, but we don't know if Sebek, purposely went to Lilia to ask about it, or if Lilia was the one who brought it up. But regardless, a lot of these flowers have romantic connotations, and Sebi does kind of have the vibe, let's be real here. I don't want to call this the main flower, but this is, very interesting, so I want to talk about it first. Carnations are the de facto Valentine's flower after roses, and we think about love when we see them. There are some specific meanings for specifically green carnations, but if you Google green carnations, the bulk of the results turn up Oscar Wilde, because it turns out that Oscar Wilde and his friends back in 1892 turned this flower into a mlem icon, and I mean man-loving man icon, not multi-level, not pyramid schemes. That would be kind of funny though, but no, it's a queer flower, it's a queer flower. Nowadays, we have a lot of subtle fashion choices to communicate our queerness to other queers. I would hope y'all look at me and you're like, oh yeah, that person's not straight or cis. I feel like my outfit speaks for itself and how gay it is. And green carnations were an early form of that kind of thing. It's been contested of whether Wilde set out to have it mean queerness at all, because he had stated at the time it meant nothing in interviews and he did it for like publicity for a play that he wrote. But let's not forget that the time period he was living in was violently homophobic, and he did actually get arrested and sent to prison because he was gay. It wasn't an age where you could come out and say something was for the gays. Like nowadays, I could say, my top is clearly inspired by Elvira's like cleavage cut, and everyone would be like, oh, of course, a gay icon, that probably means you're queer. I feel like that makes perfect sense. But like, you could not say that during the time period Oscar Wilde was alive in. Nowadays, green carnations are a queer symbol, although I can't find any reference if this was strictly a Mlem thing, or if it was used by all queer people. Like, violets were sometimes used by gay men, although they're a sapphic flower and mostly, like, associated with lesbians. But, like, gay men did use them, which I did not know until I was researching this. But with green carnations, I can't find a yes or no answer, but judging from the article name calling it a queer flower and not specifying gay men, I'm assuming it's moved to be more of a general queer flower, but to be honest, I don't know. My gay card is getting revoked because I don't know this. Sorry guys, I'm straight and cis now. Hylotelephium used to indicate that you returned someone's romantic feelings in florography. It was also used in rituals to see if a marriage or relationship would work out. You let it grow, I think, above a bed, and if it grew, it meant the relationship would flourish. I don't know about doing a ritual to see if it'll work out, but Sebi, for better or worse, seems like a guy who would like tradition. I mean, although he trusts Lilia a little too much, as far as we know, he didn't seem to have any issues with anything Lilia said when Lilia told him how to date people. And honestly, Sebi just does have the vibe of he would use flowers and other traditional romance thingies to get his feelings across. Green zinnias historically had a dual meaning of friendship and romantic love, which seems like a horrible idea. But okay, I guess people liked getting their wires crossed back then. God, I'm sorry, like, when I read that, like, and I still think of it now, all I can think of is someone trying to be like, I'm in love with you, and someone getting those flowers and being like, oh, like, we're besties! Like, can you imagine all of the, communication, ohs that happened because of this? God, the Victorians were wild. Anyway, Leucanthus represents eternal love and devotion. Cymbidium orchids mean pure love. I don't really have a lot to analyze these flowers. Like, yeah, I think Sebek's capable of love. And finally, Anastasia Spider Moms, if delivered to someone personally, meant elope with me in florography. I could definitely see Sebek as someone who would want a decent, like, I don't want to say traditional wedding, but like, you know, the whole white dress, you know, family is there, you know, the speak now, forever hold your peace sort of thing. But I think if he fell in love with a human, he could perhaps lean more towards eloping, because while his parents would have no issue with him marrying a human, Sebek's grandfather Bar would most certainly have an issue with it, and Sebek loves his grandfather dearly. I could see Sebek eloping just because he doesn't want to ruin his relationship with his grandfather and cause more family drama. Like, I don't know if I want to call it trauma, because I don't know. I don't want to be like, that can't be traumatic, but I don't know. Like, I've never gone through that sort of thing. But I could see Sebek, you know, seeing the way that his grandfather and his parents clash and have a really strained relationship. And I could see that really scaring Sebek into not wanting that to happen to him. And so I feel like if he did fall in love with a human, honestly, I could see him wanting to kind of keep it a secret, even from his parents, because he doesn't want his parents to accidentally let it slip in front of Bar that, like, he married a human. You know what I mean? So, like, I could see Sebi wanting to elope in, like, some circumstances. Part of me thinks all these romance flowers might be a coincidence, but I could also see it as, like, Sebek has a lot of issues over his heritage, and there's moments where we see he's honestly a bit insecure and doesn't feel worthy of things. I think that's part of the reason he trails after Malleus like a sad puppy. If Malleus, the future king of Briar Valley, thinks he's good, that must mean he's worth something, right? I don't think it's the only reason, but I think it's one. And when we think about love in my neck of the woods, we often think of love as this big, wonderful thing where the other person or people will love you no matter what. Maybe all the romance flowers are a reflection of Sebek wanting someone to make him feel like he's worthy of good things. But anyway, thank you guys for watching! I hope you all had fun and you'll join me on April 9th for Ville's birthday. And last but not least, happy birthday, Sebek! Thank you everyone for watching, and a very special thank you to my channel members and Twitch subs. Your support helps me to continue to make these videos. If you'd like early access to my videos, consider becoming a channel member. Patrons and Ko-fi members can get my scripts early before I record them. I livestream over on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see y'all later.